When I was interviewing Dr. Helen Fisher, who is an incredibly esteemed and world-renowned behavioral anthropologist and social scientist, she's actually the chief research officer for Match.com. So she knows a couple of things about what attracts people to each other. When I was interviewing her on my podcast, one of the things that she said is that it's important for couples to intentionally do things together that are novel and fun, things that keep that spark alive. Think back to when you were dating your spouse before you got married. When I think back to when my husband and I were dating, his name is Rob. When we were dating, we were just wide-eyed in wonder towards each other. I could not get to know enough about him. And I loved the dates that we went on. In fact, we dated long distance. So pretty much every time we were together was a date, whether it was over an extended weekend or a time when I would go visit him for a while or he would come up to my parents' house and stay. It felt like every time we were together was a date. And when I really think back to it, it's not just because we were doing some novel, great, and fun things, although we did. And I'm going to share some tips with you in this video of some great date ideas to re-spark that intimacy in your marriage and re-spark that romance in your marriage again, especially if it's begun to fade. But it wasn't just what we did, it was how we did it. It was the connection that we made with each other in our dates, in our time together, that made all of the difference. And that's the point of dating. And that's the point of continuing to date your spouse. It's that you continue to know each other, to keep knowing each other, and to get to know each other more. Because as long as you've been married, it doesn't matter. You could have been married a year, 5, 10, 50 years. I guarantee you don't know everything about your spouse because your spouse changes every day. And so do you. When I was interviewing Dr. John Gottman, once again, world-renowned researcher in the area of marriage, he even said the number one thing to keep a marriage alive and to keep a strong marriage is to stay curious about your spouse. That's what these dates are for. I'm going to give you some great ideas, some great frameworks, places, things that you can do together, but really the underlying message is that in these times, doing these things, how can you stay curious about each other and get to know each other more? I have 3 categories of date ideas for you: free, affordable, and splurge. We're going to start with the free category. Free, no money. You can do this no matter what your socioeconomic or current lifestyle is. A dinner and movie in. Do it in your house. Go and scourge your cabinets, scourge your pantry, find some fun items that you can pull together to make a super unique meal and cook it together. Throw on your favorite music, whether it's on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, whatever it is. Throw on your favorite playlist. Maybe you create a playlist and your spouse creates a playlist and you go back and forth listening to each other's favorite music as you're working together, making this food together. And then pick a movie to watch while you're snuggled up on your couch. Even if you have kids, send them to bed early and still be intentional about spending this time together. I've even had friends who say that if they have just not connected and they don't have the energy to do all the dinner and the movie, sometimes they'll just put the kids to bed early and pour a glass of wine and sit on the back porch and just talk. That's a date. That's a great date night in. Another free option is create a bowl of nouns. I know that might sound crazy, but just find a bowl in your house or a mason jar, something that you can put pieces of paper in. I was interviewing someone else on my podcast, Zach Brittle, who's a marriage and family therapist. An idea that he came up with on the podcast was to just take scraps of paper and write nouns on them, like Ferris wheel, giraffe, plane, car, whatever noun you can think of. One on each little sheet of paper, fold it up, put it in this jar or this bowl. And then part of what you can do together is you each draw out one of these little slips of paper. And then you start telling a story to each other about the last encounter you had with that noun. So maybe it's plane. If I drew that, then I would start telling my husband about the last trip that I was on, which I was flying back to Phoenix, and tell him about the conversation with the really interesting girl who sat beside me in the middle seat and how she was working in the music industry and all of these things. I would tell him that story. If he drew giraffe, then he would tell me about his last encounter with a giraffe. And the idea here is to continue to get to know your spouse. and things that maybe you didn't know before. And maybe some of these nouns lead to deeper conversations to where you can also start talking about, how did you feel when that happened? Were you scared? Tell me more about you. I love that one. It's a great free option. This also is similar to something that my husband and I did when we were dating called the question game. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. As I said, we dated long distance. And so we spent many hours a day on the phone together, especially at night. And sometimes we would tell each other everything about our days, but we still wanted to keep talking to each other. So we played this question game, and it was pretty simple. He would ask me a question, I would answer it, and the rule was I could not ask him the same question back immediately. I had to come up with a new question and ask him back, to which he would have to answer, and I'd have to kind of save this other question kind of in my pocket for later if I really wanted to know the answer to it. So we played that game all the time. In fact, we were playing that game on a hike, which is another free option, on November 6th. When we just went to one of the hiking places around Nashville where we live, and about 20, 30 minutes into our hike, we were playing the question game, and it was his turn. And he asked me the question, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? Where do you see yourself? And I went through all of this stuff about, maybe here or living here or doing this, having this kind of job. And then it was my turn. I had to ask him a different question. When it was finally my turn to ask him that question, I said, so where do you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? And he said, hopefully married to you. That's when he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. To which I said, oh my gosh, shut up, no way, shut up, no way, out of excitement. But he was like, are you saying yes or no? I was super excited. Of course, I said yes. We still play the question game to this day. Another free idea of what you can do, I guess this takes a little bit because you kind of have to have gas in your car, but go to Target, go to Lowe's, whatever kind of your interest is or your spouse's interest is. Maybe it's Michael's if you like crafts and things like that. Lowe's if you like to do home projects. Target if you just love to have Target tell you what to spend money on. Go and just walk around, look at things, have fun in the middle of Target. I can't tell you how many times in high school and college I would go and just wander around with friends and we would have a great time. Do that now with your husband, with your wife. You don't have to have an agenda. You don't have to have a grocery list. You can actually just go browse. Here's some affordable options that you can do. Go get a board game and then take that board game to a coffee shop, take it to a bar, take it somewhere where you can just be out of your house and play it together. In fact, some cities even have board game cafes where you can go and order a sandwich, order a coffee, and they have walls of board games that you can choose from to play. That's a great option too. We've done that several times and it's a favorite of ours. Or maybe you find a city near you, maybe an hour away, 2 hours away that you haven't explored before, or a hiking spot that you haven't explored before. And you go and you explore and you do that new thing or go to that new place, walk around a super cute town square. Those are great affordable date ideas. You can also do dinner and a movie out. This is kind of the standard, but one of the ways that you can split this up and kind of enhance it is don't just always go to the same movie theater and don't always go to the same kind of meal. So my husband and I are big into a dinner and a movie. It's probably our most standard date night idea that we will go to, but I'm a big foodie and he's a big movie person. So he most of the time will pick the movie. He knows the ones that I like, and thankfully he doesn't drag me to many of them that I'm not gonna like, but I can get pretty bored with just going to a movie every single time, but he loves it. He loves doing that together. So the way that we have compromised on this is fine, we'll go to movies, but I'm going to pick the place we eat. And I love doing this. I'm a total foodie. I will research for a week where we are going to eat on date night, which is also great because it builds up my anticipation. I am thinking about date night. I'm preparing for it. And I have a list in my phone of new and notable restaurants or ones that just got great awards in Nashville. Sometimes they're on the lower end, sometimes they're on the higher end. And I kind of, pick the one that's best for that month and our budget and whatever's going on. but I love doing that. So I get to have my cup filled of going and experiencing a new restaurant, which is literally my favorite thing to do. And then we get to go together and go to a movie, and it's a great way to cap off the evening. Concerts are another great option, or even just live music. Going to a dinner place that has live music and spending that time together, going dancing. Those can be some other great affordable date nights. Even the skating rink. I know that might sound super middle school, but it's an option, and it could be super fun to just play together and do things that you don't typically do. That's the part of novelty. That's the part of novelty that Dr. Helen Fisher talks about, of doing things you haven't done before. And there's a lot of other great research that talks about when you do new things with people, it solidifies connection, and the new memories that you make together can actually deepen the bond that you have with those people. So try new things. Go to a painting class. The local rec center probably has some lists, or go to a dance class. Go and do something you might not typically do. A cooking class. There is no limit to the options. A language class. Learn a new language together over a period of a certain amount of weeks. Another option that you can do is reliving past dates. The first date my husband and I went on was to the Cheesecake Factory. And every so often, when we are feeling nostalgic, we go and relive that past date. We'll go to the Cheesecake Factory, and then we'll go to the college that we went to and walk around the campus and just tell stories of that time together with each other. Those are some of the best ones. Another one, before we move on to the final category of splurge as an affordable date, is going to like family fun parks without your kids. So go and do the bumper cars, ride the go-karts, go and play like a Dave and Buster's, and, do the things, like have so much fun. I knew when there was one day when my husband and I were dating, we went to one of these fun parks and we did the bumper cars together. And then there were these bumper boats, and we each got in these bumper boats and just totally sprayed each other with water. In fact, I don't think I ever got him. I was drenching wet with all of the water that he was getting me with on these bumper boats. And it was in that moment that I knew that I loved him. We were having so much fun together. And I remember driving back to his place after that, and just looking at him and realizing in that moment, like, I have so much fun with this person and I love him. And I knew from that moment I loved him. So maybe you should go and do something fun like that. Now, here are the splurge ideas. Now, these are more of the 5-star restaurants, like the ones that you need to get on a waiting list for and maybe save up a couple of paychecks. These are great for special occasions, for anniversaries, for birthdays. And this might be a great thing if it's something that you enjoy. My husband could really care less about going to some of the 5-star restaurants that I want to go to, but he is kind and loving to go with me and kind of scratch that itch along with me, because that's something I more like to do. But you don't always have to do that. And it may not be something either of you are interested in. And if not, don't do it. But another thing that you can do as a splurge is go away for a night, even in your own city. Find like a quirky hotel or a unique hotel and go and experience it for a night. A couple of years ago, my husband and I, the grandparents had the kids for a night, and we were like, let's just go to downtown Nashville and book a hotel in some, boutique hotel and see what we can do, see what we can get into. And we ended up, it was the strangest hotel. It was one of these art hotels that had like these penguins that were in the hotel. Not real penguins. They were these huge statues of penguins that the staff would like move throughout the night and throughout the day. Super weird, but it was hilarious. We ended up, because of how quirky the hotel was, it is a memory that we will remember for forever. So find something like that. Again, this is more of a splurge. Maybe you go on a ghost tour around your town around that time of year, or maybe you go on vacation. My husband and I just went to Portugal together for our 13th anniversary, and definitely a splurge, definitely awesome. But here's what I can tell you. The best parts of our trip, yes, the exploring was great and seeing all these beautiful sights and going around Lisbon and Sintra and the Azores, like all of that was fantastic. And we both love travel. That's a huge part of how both of us are wired. Not everyone is, and that's okay, because here was the best part of the trip. We played the question game. And we hadn't played the question game in a long time. And it was a time where we just got to know each other again and reconnect on things that we hadn't talked about in a long time. I went around and even asked people in the office in preparing for this video, what are the best dates you've been on? And many of their answers I've already shared. But here is the bottom line of every single answer. If we get down to it, what made someone's best date? It was this. It wasn't where they went. It wasn't how much money they spent. It wasn't how luxurious the date was. It was the connection and the conversation that they had with their spouse that made the date great. That's it. That's all you need to really prioritize. It's about intentionality. It's about having fun and having some novelty, but it's mostly about connection. It's about prioritizing a time to be together and finding the rhythm to continually do that works for you. And yes, you can get more into what do you like to do and what can we do together and what are our shared interests, and all of those things will come. But if you really prioritize, I want to know you more. I want to be curious about you, and I want to share myself with you, and I want us to continue to connect with each other and to know each other on a deeper level. Then the best dates will absolutely come.